Hello YouTube, this is Darkon633 and today I'm bringing a review of the Power Rangers Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie Legacy Power Ranger figures. Now, I have to admit that the set is actually a pretty neat set, and it's finally great to actually own a figure representation of the designs of the suits featured in the original MMPR Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie. Now, since this is actually my first full set of 5-inch figures for the Power Rangers, or at least the original Power Rangers, I'm actually pretty happy to finally own at least one representation of them. I didn't really want to get the other Legacy figures because they're a little bit too much of a hassle to get a hold of the individual figures to make the power cannon and everything. I just didn't feel a need to get them. But since the movie figures have their own unique sculpts and designs, I decided I would go for these instead of the individual figures, except for obviously the red that was in the regular Super Mega Force toy line. Now, I'll go over each figure one by one, so I'm just going to move gears to the individual figure and move on from there. Anyways, we'll start out with the White Ranger since he's the technical leader of the team. Anyways, the White Ranger sculpt is actually a pretty great sculpt. I really like how they designed the shield in the movie since it's got a little bit more of a, I guess, angular design. In the original design, he was just kind of a flat chest that went straight on and everything. And I think they did a nice job sculpting the toy to the design in the movie. Now, obviously, the belt itself is just a full white piece that goes all the way around. But it is nice that they actually painted in the coin and the red part of the buckle. So it is pretty nice. Now, in some versions of the toys, these buckles actually are removable. I don't know what version they are that can, but the ones I have, none of them can, and they're all just molded in or glued in or whatever. I'm not quite sure how it goes, but it is pretty cool. Now, before we go on to the figure itself, we're going to take a look at the box. And since a lot of the boxes are very similar, I'm just going to quickly go over this. The bottom, it does show the movie design here, and then it says the White Ranger, and it says Oni at Toys R Us. Then it has the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie logo, and Bandai 15+, and the power is on. Back, it just shows you a tech spec of Tommy here, and a little quick story of the movie as well. And the different figures that are in the line, obviously it's just the movie's characters and Saban brands. So that's pretty much the rundown, and they are in the typical movie style or original MMPR triangle boxes they used back in the day. Now, another thing about these figures is that they're not really known for having the most accessories, obviously, but at least they come with the right accessories that they should. The White Ranger here comes with this really nicely painted Zaba, actually. I really enjoy that they went out of the way to actually paint Zaba more, and they better since you're actually paying a little bit more of a premium price rather than in the $9.99 or wherever it is in your local store with the regular figures. And it can easily just attach to the side of the belt right here, and it fits on pretty well with no problems of it falling off, so that's good. You can obviously also just plug it, well, not plug it, but kind of push it into his hand here to make him hold it, so he does hold it relatively nicely, so that's good. Now we're just going to go over the articulation points. All the figures pretty much have the same amount of articulation points, minus Ivan Ooze, which I'll get to when I get there. His head is on a ball joint, so that's full movement around and can bend up and down. I like the fact that these shoulder pieces are a separate piece so that his shoulders are completely unrestricted and can go 360. Can also bend only about that far due to the piece, but these are removable for some reason. Just to quickly show it off. So you can bend it just a little bit further, but not by much. But I'm not sure why you would actually want to remove these pieces, so I'm just going to quickly plug it back on. It's got a single wrist joint, and it can kind of go around. It's actually attached by a peg, which I'm not going to remove here, but it's actually attached by a peg, so it just swivels around. It's got a single elbow joint that only goes about that far, so there isn't that much movement there. He has no waist articulation, but his legs have full movement all around. Can swivel up here at the top of the boot. And his ankles can kind of pivot, but just because of very, very small joints, it isn't that much fun to play around with that fear of it actually snapping off. So there isn't much articulation you can get on the foot otherwise. But that's pretty much it for the Tommy figure, and I think it's still a pretty sweet design. Now we're going to move on to red, black, and blue. Now the reason why I decided to do it this way, since these three sculpts have very similar sculpts overall, I decided to put them into one segment here, so let's just go to quickly go over them. Now the boxes, as you can probably tell, each of them are pretty much around the same thing. Obviously, it's pretty much the only difference is the name of the character and the bios and so on, but that's about it. The only accessory red comes with... Actually, no, it's not the only accessory. All three of these figures come with a holster and at least their version color of the Blade Blaster. Blade Blaster. Now, these actually were never seen outside of their holsters, so it is kind of interesting to finally see the design of the Blade Blasters outside for the first time. It is a pretty interesting kind of design, just basically designed as if the Blade Blaster is closed, so you never really got to see it opened. And what's cool is that you can just plug on to the side here. So usually when it comes to Power Ranger toys, it's usually just a Blade Blaster opened or something, you just plug it onto the side. But these actually come with holsters, so that's actually pretty cool. Now, the only other accessories that it comes with is the alternate head, which is the Power Scope. Now, he actually used this in the movie, if I remember correctly, to do some kind of X-ray vision kind of thing and to scope out the area. It's been a while since I've seen the movie, so I don't remember exactly what this did, but it is still a pretty cool accessory to come with the figure. Now, the Black Ranger, unfortunately, doesn't come with any accessories besides the Blade Blaster and holder, as the Black Ranger there as usual. Shows that it's Adam Park. Well, obviously, for red, it's... For those who don't know, it's Rocky. Now, moving on. Unfortunately, like I stated before, he doesn't have any accessories, so he is a bit of an underwhelming figure because of that. Still pretty cool regardless, but it is a bit of a shame that he didn't come with an accessory. Now, the Blue Ranger, obviously, it's Billy. Shows that he comes with the Stega Stinger, which is that tiny little laser whip device that he used within the movie. So it's cool that he actually comes with it. Now we're just going to quickly go over the articulation points, as usual. Same thing with the White Ranger, nothing restricted this time. It can kind of move a little bit more unlike the White Ranger. I guess mine was a little tighter there. Its arms can move just about if the armor wasn't on. It can turn 360 and bend at the bow, and the wrists can swivel. Same thing with the legs. Has full movement, bend single at the knee. Can swivel there, and the feet can pivot just a bit, but there isn't too much on it. Now, what you can do is take up the Blade Blaster if you wished. You can plug it onto his hand so he just kind of holds it. It's kind of hard to tell which way they put it on, so actually I think I'll just plug it in this way with the and not on. So just give them something to hold, so that's pretty cool. We'll just take it out. And then the heads can actually plug off really easily and just be replaced with the other helmet. So here we go. Just plug it off and it's just a ball joint there. You see the helmet there. And then we could just plug on the other head, so now it's in scope mode. It's rather tight, so bear with me here. There you go. So yeah, now his head is in scope mode, so that's pretty cool that it actually comes with an alternate head sculpt. We're just going to take this off and plug back the original helmet. So, there we go. Now for Adam, his head, obviously, is pretty much the same thing you're going to get all around with articulation. There isn't anything restrictive or different between the three figures, so that's pretty good. They got a universal articulation. And yeah, he, unfortunately, like I said before, does not have any accessories. So now we're going to Billy here. Same thing, you pretty much get a see all around there. But be warned, since these pieces can be slightly loose, as you can see here, kind of looks like it's about to pop off at times when you move it up too much. So, still around the same amount of movement, which is good. No issues or any restrictions. And you can plug on the stinger on his arm, if you so wish to. Well, not his arm, but his hand. It just easily fits in there. So that's pretty cool. And yeah, I still think this is a really nice set, and we'll now move on to the two females. Now, the two females of the set have some pretty strange sculpts, since they have these wider hip kind of designs. The Blade Blasters don't exactly hold very well on the side of their belts, just because of not enough clearance due to the large hip pieces. So it is a bit awkward because of how thick their legs are at times, but at least the designs in the movie wasn't too far off, since they are a lot thicker, as I'll mention later in the video. Now, we're going to quickly go over their box. It shows here the Yellow Ranger, and shows that she comes with the power beam, which is what Aisha used in that part of the movie where they were going deep under the tunnel, and it allowed her to have head beam lights on her helmet, which is actually a pretty interesting idea. I thought that was pretty cool. And now, we also have Kimberly here, Pink Ranger, and she comes with the Pterodactyl Thunder Whip, which is that giant whip weapon that she used in the movie as well. Now, we're going to quickly go over the female sculpts here. Her head is on a ball joint and allows full movement. Her arms can go a little bit further than the males just because they're a lot thinner and the joint allows less restriction. A single joint at the elbow, and also wrist swivel, and unfortunately my Yellow Ranger is just a bit more loose than expected, so she does flop around a bit. Legs allow full movement, but obviously this said you kind of need to move the Blade Blaster holder off to the side a bit if you want to move the other leg with less restriction. And then it's got a single knee joint and swivel at the top of the boot. And also, this is where I mentioned that the joints are very loose on the ankles, so I'm afraid that's going to snap up if I'm not too careful with it. Now, you can also take out the Blade Blaster if you wished, so since she comes with the yellow one. And as you can see, the holster's popping out due to the way the hips are designed. Just going to quickly snap that back on. And then you can plug a Blade Blaster in their hands as well. Now, because their hands are a lot smaller than the male sculpts, she does have a little bit harder time holding it on without it coming off, so that's a bit of a shame. So we're just going to plug this back into the holster. And then you can obviously all take off her helmet and exchange it with the power beam helmet. So one moment, I'm just going to plug the alternate head on. And I think that looks pretty nice on the design. I think they did a nice job designing the alternate helmets. And this one is a lot tighter than the other helmet for some reason. I guess the peg inside is a lot tighter for this helmet. And I'm just going to plug this off and plug back the original. So that's really nice. And now we're going to go on to Kimberly here. She's got a very similar design here. She doesn't have an alternate helmet, so that's pretty much all you get there. Allows full movement there. Can bend about that far. Turn 360. Bend at the elbow. Now, I kind of wish all these figures had a cut at the elbow here, but unfortunately they don't. Which is a bit of a shame, but what can you do? It's got the peg joint as usual in the hands, so be careful there. Allows full movement outward. Bend at the knee. Can swivel at the boot there, and the ankles can pivot. Now, these ankle joints are really strange, since they should allow you to use the ankle joint, but since they are so loose and just how the peg is designed, there isn't much you can do with the ankle joint itself, which is a bummer. She does come with the Pterodactyl Thunder Whip, as I mentioned earlier, so you can plug it on, and it does stay on pretty well, but I see it kind of pop off quite a bit, so it is a bit of annoying. I'm just going to leave it in there. So, yeah, I think they did a pretty good, nice job with the female sculpts, even if they're just a bit bulkier than expected. Now we're going to move on to the villain of the figure, Ivan Ooze. Sorry, the villain in the set, should I say, Ivan Ooze. Now, being the only villain of the set, Ivan Ooze has the most radical difference in the sculpts between all the figures released in this line for the MMPR, the movie figures. Since he doesn't have any leg joints, really, since he's got this whole cloak design and his feet can kind of just turn around, so there isn't much you could do in terms of articulation, but I'll get to there in a minute. Well, we're going to look at the box. It's the same thing as the other Ranger figures. It says Ivan Ooze here. Shows a bio for Ivan Ooze, and it says, I guess his weapon is the purple ooze. So on, and the story as usual. And the only other accessories he's got are these drape pieces, which go on the side here, and you kind of need to plug off the hand and then slide them in. And the other accessory it comes with is actually the one that he used to destroy the command center in the movie. Which is pretty cool that it actually comes with it. Now, the peg sits just a little bit further than I would have liked it, but there isn't much I can do with that. But now we're just going to go on to the articulation points. Now, his head is on a ball joint, which allows full movement. Can kind of bend side to side just a bit. His arms can go 360 all the way around and bend at the elbow just about that far. His his wrists can swivel around, but that's pretty much it for articulation-wise. Same thing with the other hand. He's got no wrist articulation or anything else, really, just because of the whole design here, and, as mentioned earlier, just the feet. So, articulation-wise, there isn't a whole lot you get out of this figure. But I still think it's nice that they included this figure in the set. I'll be back to talk about my final thoughts of the entire line itself. Now, the full set of figures is a pretty awesome set to own, and I really enjoy what the sculpts that they did for designing. Now, obviously, for the females, they're a little bit more bulky than the suits in the movie, but even for the suits in the movie, they were definitely more bulkier than the ones featured actually in the scenes and everything. So, I can see where they went at, and it's not as bad as some of the other, obviously, females figures we got in the past because of that. Now, Ivan Ooze is a bit slightly on the S side just because of his articulation points, and he might not be the best figure in terms of in action poses and everything, but it is nice to finally own another villain from the Power Rangers verse, especially one that wasn't featured in the Japanese footage, since obviously this movie was an American exclusive take on the Power Rangers. Now, obviously, because of what happened in the movie, these designs aren't canon to the show, obviously, just because it is its own universe, technically. It's still nice to own the figures, and I really enjoy what Band America's done, and done a really nice job getting hold of these figures. Now, the price tag for around $16.99 is just a bit pricey when you add them all together, but kind of take into account that these are like brand new sculpts. They're not based on any of the existing figures, since they obviously have their own designs. And another problem I've seen is that some of the coins and the belt buckles aren't exactly accurate, so just keep that in mind. But other than that, I think this is a pretty nice set, and it's really nice toy line to get a hold of. Anyways, please comment and subscribe, check out Hirotaku and the associated channels down below. Also, check out the podcast on Rajio, WRW Hero Talk and Hero News, and also check me out on Twitter under Darkon633, and don't forget to comment and subscribe, and I'll see you on YouTube. Bye.